Hello and welcome back to UI Chat from the Interface, the podcast focused on the latest from Ubiquiti and anything network related. I'm Alex, and once again, I'm joined by Evan McCann. Howdy, Evan.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. We just had some fun technical issues before the show, which is always fun. And just discussing the lengthy show notes this time around. It's pretty extensive.
Yes. Note to self, don't buy cheap cables. They will fail.
That's good advice. It's good
Yes.
advice. Just before we get into the show, I want to thank everyone who's been listening or watching the show over the last few years. We really appreciate it. Me and Evan really do. It's really good fun to come back every month and talk about all the latest Ubiquiti stuff. If you can give us a review in your favourite podcast app of choice, or leave a comment on the YouTube video if you're watching us on YouTube, that'd be really, really appreciated. Thank you.
So just before we get into it, two quick little follow-up items. I can't remember if we I know we did talk about this before, but I don't remember where it stood at the time. But we were talking about how the UISP products seemed to be disappearing from the store. And they changed the branding in the upper left to say UniFi. So it was like a very specific, like we were just talking about UniFi in this store page here. And they did add a drop down. So if you click on that UniFi logo in the upper left now, it does show UISP and Amplify kind of as separate tabs. So all those products still exist, and UISP continues to be, a product in their lineup. And the other one is the E7 Audience. This is the really high-end, kind of like stadium or arena size access point. It's kind of the replacement for the base station XG. It's $2,000 US. That is still listed as coming in March 2025. It hasn't hit the store yet. So they do have a few more days to make that available, but not quite available yet.
Yeah, we're recording this at the end of March, like 26, and yes, it does still say March 2025. So yeah.
And they still have time. It's still, it still could be coming this month.
Very true, yeah. We've also got some interesting, we've had a few guests on last few months, or mostly Ubiquiti creators like Chris Sherwood and Cody McCallum. But we've got an interesting one next month. So what we're going to do is going to have one of our listeners, Adam, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but he approached us and said, I run a WISP in some part of America. Can I come on the show and talk about all that WISP side of stuff? Because it's, as me and Evan know, the WISP side of Ubiquiti is one of those things that's quite unknown. You only really know about it if you're in that market. So we're going to have Adam on the show for a segment of the episode next month to talk about his experience running a WISP and all the challenges that come with that, but also some other UISP related chats. That'd be quite good fun, I think. Adam seems like a nice guy based on the emails we've had with him. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. We both have a background in WISP, so always good to talk about that stuff for the people that care. It's a small community, but really interested to see kind of his perspective running that.
Yeah.
All right, and so this month we kind of had a avalanche of hardware. It was one of those months. So we do have notes about the software down below, but just looking at this list of hardware, I have a feeling we won't cover the software too in depth, just because there's so much hardware to get through.
Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah, we're here at the end of March. A couple weeks ago, I think maybe the first week of March, Ubiquiti had one of their videos on their YouTube page that they do for some product announcements. They also, I noticed they're using their blog. I believe it's blog.ui.com or ui.com/blog. I forget which way
They're
it's
using that
turned.
again, are they? That's interesting.
Yes, that I was really happy to see that. So UI Tom, he was the one that did their Tech Field Day presentation about Wi-Fi 7. And I forget his title, but he's kind of higher up in like product design and marketing, I believe, on the technical side. But he had a post, and he actually is credited with a bunch of recent ones.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that was what caught my eye and pointed me to these two new products. It's the U7 Lite and the U7 In-Wall. So we did have the U7 Pro Wall, I believe, or U7 Wall Pro Wall. And that was the only Wi-Fi 7 wall model, which are meant to be like, for a hotel room or an MDU, those kind of networks. This is the second wall option, and this is actually in wall. So they kind of make that distinction. A lot of people didn't like the Pro Wall because it didn't have the PoE pass-through and the downstream ports. The U7 In-Wall has 2 ports, one of which you can do PoE pass-through. And it doesn't have 6 gigahertz, but it does have a really high gain 5 gigahertz antenna. And despite that high gain, it's still only rated for approximately 1,250 square feet or 115 square meters. So it really is like, yeah, a hotel room is a good place to kind of think of where this product would go, but you could also put it in, a room of your house or something like that where you need, ideally like PoE pass through or just some extra LAN ports there. But it's a pretty basic kind of lower end model. It's 149 USD and it kind of matches the radio specs of the U7 Lite that we're about to talk about. But it's nice to see that. I think they had kind of promised that maybe last year when the U7 Pro Wall came out, where they said we have another model coming for people that need PoE pass through. So kind of stay tuned, and here it is.
So what is this? You put on the show notes next to these 2 APs, BE5000. Is that? Oh, that must be to do with Wi-Fi 7 specs.
Yeah, that's. I don't think Ubiquiti releases those numbers, but if you just add the maximum data rates of all the radios together, I think of that like you would see that more in past generations where you'd see like AC 1300.
Oh yeah.
That would be 802.11 AC, so that's Wi-Fi 5, and then if you add all the data rates of the radios together, it's 1300 megabits per second. So I kind of do that math myself, so I can think about them as classes. So this is kind of the lowest end, because there's no 6 gigahertz radio, and it's only a 2-stream 2.4 gigahertz radio and a 2-stream 5 gigahertz radio. So there's 4 total spatial streams, and it's roughly 5,000 megabits per second if you add those data rates together. Real world, you're not going to get 5,000 megabits per second, but that's a separate topic. But yeah, the U7 Lite is the same. It's a BE5000. So no 6 gigahertz. It's 2-stream for 2.4 and 5. And that is finally now under $100 for Wi-Fi 7. So this is $99 USD. So it does kind of, now that the U7 lineup's a bit more complete, they're still selling the U6 models, and they're still selling even some AC, like the AC HD. Some older models as well. I think the AC Pro is still on the store for $149, and the fact that the U7 Lite exists for $50 less makes me very hesitant to recommend the AC Pro for anyone, unless there's some weird situation. But yeah, this for $100, I think it makes the U7 line the kind of default option, and you have options from the very cheap up to the very expensive.
AC Pro used to be my main access point in the house, and it's just developing some faults with 5 gigahertz, and now I've taken out. That's 10 years, or just under 10 years. I've had that in operation for. It's been powered up 24/7, so they do last a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great AP. It's just 10 years old.
I know.
The thing I do like about the AC Pro, not to talk it up and say you should buy one, but it was one of the few models that had 2 Ethernet ports.
Yep.
So a lot of people use that for either dual uplink or like bridging to another device. But that I wouldn't recommend for a purchase in 2025.
No, not really.
So yeah, we got those, the U7 Lite and the U7 In-Wall. They're pretty similar radio-wise. It's just, how are you installing it to pick between those two.
Yeah.
We did also get, I think, in a separate blog post, I think last week sometime, the U7 XG and XGS. So these are higher-end models, and in their video introducing it, they really talked up the fact that when they were designing the E7, so these were the new enterprise-grade high-end access points.
Yep.
Those have like a totally different design, where they have that kind of like black metal plate on the back, so it's like better heat dissipation. There's a lot of things that go into that design to make it small, compact, and able to handle the heat that those radios generate and all of those things. So they kind of took the lessons from those products and made kind of more flagship U7 Pro level APs, and that's what these are. So the big feature for the XG and XGS are, the XG in Ubiquiti speak means a 10 gigabit interface. So these have 10 gigabit RJ45 Ethernet uplinks, just one of them. They don't have dual uplinks like the E7s, but they are kind of more middle of the range. So the XG is $199 and the XGS is $299. The XGS adds 2 additional spatial streams on 5 gigahertz, and it also adds the spectral scanning radio. But otherwise, the XG is tri-band, 2x2 for each band. The XGS is 4x4 for 5 gigahertz, but still tri-band. So a bit more capacity on 5 gigahertz and the spectral scanning radio for the XGS. But yeah, they're very nice. It just kind of, for me, it kind of muddies the middle of the lineup a little bit, where once you get into that, $150 to $300 range, you got a couple options. You have the U7 Pro, U7 Pro Max, the XG, the XGS. I might be forgetting one or two there, but there's like more overlap now in that middle of the range. But these are very nice. They do have a slimmer design. They say they handle heat better, which a lot of people had concerns with the U7 Pro and Pro Max about how hot they got. So I don't know if people have done testing, or I haven't seen any videos. Have you seen anyone cover these?
I haven't yet, no. Most of the videos have come out recently to do with the new cameras, which I'll get onto in a bit. I haven't seen these APs being reviewed yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the summary. It's a new design. It looks better. It's thinner. It's flat rather than kind of a rounded dome top. And otherwise, they seem like a pretty nice middle of the range kind of getting into the pro territory just because of the 10 gig uplink.
Yeah.
It's just you'll have to start really going through each spec and saying, do I prefer to have a 10 gig uplink, or do I prefer to have this feature on this other one? It makes the decision a little bit more complicated.
That's true. And also, it comes in black for the first time on a UniFi AP as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's interesting.
They don't appear to be on the store, the black versions. They did mention that they are coming in black, so I assume that'll be coming soon.
Yeah, that's quite cool. And those were announced on the 10th of March, judging by Tom's blog post here, which is quite cool. Put some links in the show notes or whatever. Along with these new APs, which Evan has spoken about, we've also got new XG switches. And you've put in the show notes, so this brings us up to 40 switches in the US store for switch different variations, which is frankly quite crazy.
Yeah. And I did check the UK. UK also has 40.
Cool.
So probably in most regions, but because things vary by region. But yeah, 40 different models. These new XG models, we have 3 of them. There's a 10 port, a 24 port, and a 48 port.
Wow. There's actually one more as well. So there's actually an 8 port, like a little white one. It's called the Pro XG 8 PoE, which isn't on the store yet. So it looks like it's on that blog post that. So it's got 8 RJ45 ports and 2 SFP, and then the Pro XG 10 has got 10 RJ45 and 2 SFPs by the look of things.
So they have an 8 port and a 10 port?
Yes, that's very strange, isn't it?
Is the 8 port more of like a desktop?
Yeah.
Okay, so the 10 is a full rack width.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yes,
Weird.
Judging by the fact that we mentioned 40 models and we already got confused about which are which, and I didn't even know that there was an 8 port, I think that's a sign of, like, just stepping back from these products specifically, like, it's kind of overwhelming now just looking to pick up a switch. So we can cover these. I mean, to me, they're very similar to the Enterprise Campus, which is the very top end of the line. They just kind of removed the modular fans and power supplies. But the big thing with the XG switches is a ton of 10 gig interfaces and a ton of the 90 watt PoE plus. Very high throughput, very high PoE. And it just makes I don't want to totally side rail here, but like the Pro Max, they did the same thing as Apple, where they have the Max, like the M4 Max, SoC for devices, but then they also have a model above maximum So we have the
Yes.
Pro Max switches, but we also have Pro HD, we have Pro XG, and we have Enterprise Campus. So Max doesn't really mean Max, but silly naming aside, these are nice, high throughput, high power, expensive switches.
Do you think when someone's designing a deployment for a campus or office or whatever, that they are sitting there and well, there is enough. There must be. They wouldn't have developed these products if there wasn't any demand for them. But is there enough sort of variation between what people need out of a network switch in that regard? So they'll have all these tiny little details between each one of power and different things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm most familiar with the Cisco products, and if you just look at like a Catalyst 9300 or 9200, that's kind of roughly in line with what they're doing in these higher end switches.
Okay.
The amount of submodels and configuration options and subscriptions and features and it's yes. So yes, you can be very specific, and once you get into this level of networking, either in like a data center or like a high end large campus enterprise network, you do need a ton of options. You do need configurability. You do need flexibility on model choices. So yeah, I don't know if there's people demanding this or they're trying to build their way up to get into those type of networks.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd imagine the latter because there's still posts on Reddit I see where people are saying, "What do you recommend for X, Y, and Z?" And then someone says, "Oh, don't use UniFi, use something else." So they want to be the default choice, and they probably need this whole range of different switch models, even though it looks silly on the outside. It, as you said, it probably makes sense for certain applications. So
right, but it also, like, the concern I would have is that it makes it overwhelming for a less technical person or someone just looking, hey, I just want to go buy some equipment for my house. What do I need?
Yep.
Oh, I have 40 options. It can get overwhelming. So I hope that they don't alienate people by pursuing that. And then, they're like people like me, where I'm a decision maker for an enterprise network. I still look at Ubiquiti as this isn't quite enterprise grade.
Yep.
And then if you're a home user, you might go, oh, Ubiquiti's too complicated for me. So they have to strike that balance. And they're definitely erring on the, throw spaghetti at the wall, more models is better approach.
Yeah. They're in that weird situation where, like, when the new Mac Pro came out, the big silver, the most recent refresh, people who aren't used to those sort of types of machines, because Apple's a consumer brand first and foremost, people are like, oh, what, this is ridiculous. But there was people out there who run film studios who think this is just what we need. So it's that complication of having a brand which appeals to both sides of the coin there. So
yeah, and I think they're doing a pretty good job balancing it. It just it's so easy to complain because if you're tracking this month by month and think about all the products that they're introducing, I think the top comment on their recent video is like, I can't keep up with the products you're releasing. So like even their fans are kind of overwhelmed at this point, I think.
Yeah. And then as we were literally recording we were making the show notes in the last few hours here, and you noticed there was some other switches that got added to the store. I don't know when, but it must have been the last few days and weeks. But there's some new campus switches, but they've got an S letter next to them, but they have more fans on the back by the look of things. But have you worked out what's different with these yet? I can't work this out.
As far as I can tell, there's a $500 addition to add 200 gig QSFP slots on the back, and that is used for stacking. So if you have multiple enterprise campus switches, it looks like it's going to be an option. You can say standard, without that stacking interface on the back. And then the way it's shown in the store is a little bit strange, but I think that is, add $500 and give me those interfaces on the back so I could have a stack of multiple of these.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows shipping Q3 2025.
Yep.
So I guess they are technically different models, but it's the exact same other than that interface on the back.
Yeah, the hardware on the back, if you look at the back page, the back side of the switch, they've moved all the fans over to one side and put the management ports and the as you said, the QSFP ports on that one side. So it is a different model essentially in terms of chassis design for them.
Oh yeah, and I didn't. They do have a RJ45 console port, which
Yeah,
is a very rare sight on a UniFi switch these days.
yeah, and for people who aren't sure what stacking is, do you want to give like a small explanation of what that can do? I think we've done that before on the show, but just to sort of help people understand it a little bit.
Yeah, it's making a group of switches into one logical switch. I'm used to the Cisco world where you'd have 2, 3, 4, however many switches, and you'd have one management IP. You would just have all of those interfaces in kind of one logical group. The confusing thing is UniFi kind of already does that for you. So I don't fully understand the purpose of stacking in UniFi because it all just shows up in the GUI. It's all just interfaces you can configure. I don't understand the advantages of stacking when you land into the UniFi GUI. Like I don't understand what's different versus just having two separate switches. So I don't know. I haven't used these products. I don't have $4,000 to drop, or I guess $8,000 to drop two of the 48 port and just to play around with. But maybe someone who has these could tell us.
It also weirdly says, if you look at the 48 port version of the standard switch, you got 2,150 watts of PoE budget. It says here that PoE budget availability requires shared mode (brackets coming soon). Recommend being paired with the enterprise campus aggregation. So I'm not overly sure what that means either.
Well, I remember that when the enterprise campus came out, they had like two modes. They said it's similar to like RAID. Do you want it to be redundant, or do you want to use, like RAID 0, give me all the power? So I remember that, where they said, because there's two 1,200 watt power supplies in there, and it's like, do you want to use all of that, or do you want, one of those power supplies to fail and you're still okay? So I'd assume it's related to that, and it's probably related to stacking. Cisco has like power stacking, where you feed dual power supplies into each switch, and then it can send power to other switches in the stack. So maybe that's it, but I don't think that they're doing like power stacking type thing. So I'm not sure what shared mode would be.
Yeah, there's not much explanation about what that is yet, and obviously no one's reviewed them yet. The one person I'd expect to review it is Clay, because I think he got given the I think he got given the enterprise switches to start with a while back. I remember him talking about it on the last on the time we had him on the show. So maybe I have to get him back on to talk about that when he gets those. So right, I think it was literally Monday this week. So we're recording this on Wednesday. That Ubiquiti dropped a whole range of new UniFi G6 cameras, and these have an interesting place in their lineup. So there's a brand new G6 Bullet, which is larger than the old one. G6 Turret, different hardware design, and then also a G6 Instant. There's a few things that is quite important to have a look at here. So all these models have the same 4K sensor, which is 8 megapixels. All the cameras are NDAA compliant, and I did have to look this up, and it's something to do with the US government not wanting, I think, Chinese manufacturers basically of cameras. So Ubiquiti is putting a little label on these cameras to say, look, these are compliant. And there's also something called a multi-tops trillion operations per second AI engine on every single camera as well. They look pretty good. And what's interesting to me is that there's an FAQ on one of the cameras page, right? And it says, how does the G6 line of cameras fit into our overall product lineup? And they've actually said here that the G5 is a simpler camera at a more affordable price, which makes sense, lower resolution and fewer analytics. So they're sort of viewing the G5 range now as not really a previous generation, but they're viewing it as sort of a more simple entry line level of cameras, just slightly above Ultra probably. I like the look of these. They seem better quality hardware design based on their specs. They've all got 4K. They all can do license plate detection, and I'm pretty impressed. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you covered it. The buzzwords aside, the AI engine.
Yep.
basically what that means is it's similar to the way that the AI cameras have the enhanced features. So that's like license plate detection, face recognition. I'm not sure about if all categories are on each. But yeah, it adds, it's more compute on the camera. So the same way you can add the AI port or AI key to like enhance your face detections and those sort of operations and Protect. I think that these cameras kind of will at the very least lessen the load, or you won't need to buy an AI key with these, because that compute is done on the camera itself. And besides that, it seems like the IR range is a little bit longer. It's 4K, so higher quality, bigger sensor. Really beyond that, I mean, I don't understand. They also, they kind of back themselves into a corner with G4, G5, G6, because you just assume G5 is, one better than G4, but there's some places where that isn't true. But they are, they're nice cameras and good prices, and especially if you're looking for those AI features, I think it's worth considering over the G5 or something cheaper.
Yeah, so they've said here the G6 cameras do not work with the AI port because the features that the AI port would add, these cameras have, so face detection and license plate. They do work with the AI key, though, because the AI key does the... I remember Tom talking about the language models, and it would explain things for you based on what you've seen. You can search for woman in red coat driving this car or something, so you can find those. And what they've said is that there's another question in the FAQ, which I'll put a link to. It says, will the AI line of cameras continue, and what about G5? So it says, AI and G5 series remain a core part of our lineup. It says, expect specialized AI cameras to join the roster in the future. So G6 just means a more robust mid-tier option for users who need 4K and more detections, it says, without jumping to a specialized AI camera, or without sticking with the entry-level G5 cameras. So, yeah.
Okay, so they view G5 as entry-level, G6 as mid-range, AI is the fancy stuff.
Yep.
And now, then we'll get Pro Max cameras soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll get some cameras with 10 gig interfaces at some point. So, which, when they mention specialized, that makes sense, because the AI LPR, that's a very, very specialized camera. So that makes sense in terms of their branding.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like, I think, judging by the specs, that the G6 Bullet has got the same body size as the G4 and G5 Pro, sort of a larger unit, whereas the G4 and G5 Bullets were somewhat of a smaller body thing, but they've kept the mounts the same based on what they've said. So the same mounts.
In the video they mentioned like it's designed for in-place upgrades, but they didn't really say from what. But I assume even though the G5 Bullet was smaller, it used the same mount as like the G4.
It says, is the mounting hardware the same? Is the mounting hardware on G6 cameras the same as existing? So it says a bullet, turret, or instant camera can be upgraded to one of these new ones. So there we go.
There you go.
Which is quite nice. There's some little weird differences, right? So we've got the G6 Instant, which has got an SD card, like the other cameras we've had previously, like the Ultra AI. What's it? The G5 Ultra turret camera, I think. Yeah, that had an SD card in. Mm-hmm. Whereas this G6 Instant's got an SD card as well for edge recording, supposedly, but the turret and the bullet don't have that, weirdly. So there's that. And there is also the G6 turret, as I mentioned, has a all-new hardware design with the same sort of features as you've got before. But yeah, they look pretty interesting. So it'd be quite good to see how they lean into that. And also the this is getting very confusing. The G6 Bullet and the G6 turret come in black and white, but as of recording, they're not available in black yet. So,
and that's I think we're good. They do look like nice cameras. The only other thing I want to mention, I don't know if it happened with this announcement or I just noticed it when I was looking at this for the show notes, but it seems like some of the older cameras did drop off the store.
Oh.
This might not be news. This might have happened 3 months ago and I just didn't notice, but looking for I think a lot of the G4 cameras are off. Like only the G4 Instant, the G4 Doorbell, but I think like the G4 Bullet. So yeah, a lot of the G4 cameras seem to have gone.
They have. Yep.
And I think there's no sign of any of the G3. I think those are all
No.
discontinued.
So yeah, the G4 bullet's gone. The only one that's remaining is the G4 doorbell. The original one got removed a while back, actually.
Yeah.
And also the G4 Instant is still on the store. There's a big price jump between the G4 Instant and the G6 Instant, actually.
Yeah, same size, but 4K and
$80,
AI
yeah.
features, etc.
I think the G3 Instant got removed from the store as well.
Yeah.
That was there previously, so yeah, looks interesting.
And yeah, last for this onslaught of hardware, this one was actually really interesting to me.
Yes,
I don't
me
know how many people have these kind of setups, but this is the Device Bridge Pro Sector. So it looks very similar to the Air Max Lite AP GPS. And just for scale, I mean, I think these things are, I don't have the dimensions in front of me, but I think it's like a foot tall. So it's like 12 inches high, 4 or 5 inches wide. Like, it's a large AP.
1 second, I have one.
You
1 second.
have one?
Yep.
Oh, nice. But yeah, while Alex is running to go get that, yeah, it's very similar to the Air Max Lite AP. And what this device does, it's a 90-degree antenna, and you can connect up to 40 Device Bridge Pro clients up to 3 miles away or 5 kilometers. We got a live show and tell.
There we go. So that's the Lite AP GPS, my hand for scale.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same size as this one. So not massive, but it's... Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I used one of those things, I pulled it out of the box and was like, holy crap. Because, yeah, like, you can't really tell scale super well in the store.
No.
But yes, those are large devices meant for installing on a roof or probably on a pole somewhere outdoors, kind of high up.
Yeah.
And you can use it in a bunch of different ways, but they show it for like a remote security camera, or a remote network location if you want to put like an access point at like an outbuilding, or you need to connect, a whole host of cameras or something that covers a 90-degree, arc.
Yep.
Up to 5 kilometers or 3 miles away. And it does seem weird. It can't do 80 megahertz. You notice that?
Yeah, so Air Max AC, which is obviously what this is, can do 20, 40... Well, obviously, there's weird ones like 30 and 60 as well, but it can go up to 80 megahertz, whereas this is limited to 20 and 40 for point-to-multipoint. I'd imagine to sort of rein in people's choices, because instinctively there'd be less technical people using these devices versus Air Max. So if you get where I'm going with that, so
yes.
It's sort of to
the fact that this it seems like it's designed for a very easy solution.
Oh yeah.
The same way when we talk about the device bridge, where it's if you're not a UISP person, if you're not on the network side and you just need to solve this problem, being stuck with a 40 megahertz width channel makes this really good for remote security cameras, or if you got 10, 20, 30 cameras, and it's all pretty low bandwidth needs. You just kind of need a lot of them. It wouldn't be the best if you're trying to get the most bandwidth possible. You'd need something else for that. But
whenever at the WISP I used to work at, whenever we did point-to-multipoint stuff with Air Max, we'd always run it at a max of 40 megahertz. Well, usually it'd be 20, but sometimes we'd jump to 40. So we would run 20 megahertz channels on what we were doing. So that gives you some sort of context. But and the big thing with this is it simplifies the PoE aspect, because there's stuff we do at Hostfire all the time where we're sort of consulting with people on what hardware they should buy. And funny enough, one person today was asking, can they do point-to-multipoint with UniFi Device Bridge Pros? And we just said no, because this new device hadn't come out yet, and it came out this week.
Right. Now they can.
Yeah, and it's given. I think we spoke about this a while back. It's simplifying the PoE standard of it, because if you think you've got to have a converter for 24-volt PoE, then got to try and power something else up, and these are all 48-volt PoE and works really well. And then if you have got the Device Bridge Pro at the end device, you can power up your cameras with it. So I think that's a really, really good idea. It makes things a lot simpler. And if you're an MSP and doing building bridges between buildings or various things, like one of the examples they gave was a gate camera. So if you've got a really long driveway, just put one of those at the end and problem solved. So no, I think it's great. It is pricey compared to the Lite AP. So the Lite AP is $99, and this one's $199, I think, or $179. So
yeah,
you pay a little bit for premium for that, but yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's the reused enclosure from the Lite AP GPS. It's not cutting edge performance wise, but it's a great, low technical, complex. It'll solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. So it seems like a really nice product, and it kind of completes. I don't know if they'll have more device bridges in the future, but now that solution makes a lot more sense to me. Where you have the point-to-point option, you have a point-to-multipoint option. And it's kind of plug and play, simple way to solve these kind of problems with some radios.
Yeah. Sweet. We were going to talk about this last episode because last episode was quite full in the end, and this one seems to be leaning towards that way. But we've spoken about some different hardware before, and one of the ones that stands out to us is Alta Labs. It's quite a unique company because the people that work there, most of them used to work at Ubiquiti. So there's a guy, if you're I'm going to say like a Ubiquiti veteran, you'll remember there's a guy on the forum called Mike D, who used to post all the software releases, and he actually now works at Alta Labs doing the same sort of thing. And there's various people that are from that world that work there. But Alta Labs sent me and Evan out some hardware, got to be November time last year. We've been slow getting around to having a look at it. What have you got in terms of hardware from Alta Labs, and then we'll look at what they have.
Well, yeah, we is it show and tell time?
Sure.
So I have the one of their access points and one of their 8-port switches.
Nice.
It's getting blurred here, but yeah. So I have the they have 3 different models of access point. They have the AP6, they have the AP6 Pro, and they also, one of their more recent additions was the outdoor model. So they have the AP6 Pro outdoor. And then they have 3 different switch options. They have an 8-port, a 16-port, and a 24-port. So this S8 PoE, it's just a really small desktop switch. It's very similar to like the Lite AP, or sorry, not Lite AP, I got that on the brain now. The Lite 8 PoE switch, which I think I have actually here.
Yeah.
So this is the UniFi 8-port. I'm getting really blurred here. But that's the UniFi 8-port Lite PoE switch, and this is very similar.
This is making for great audio content.
Yeah, if you look here on my screen in this podcast. But yeah, so those are the 2 products I have. I just have one of the access points and one of the switches. What do you have?
So I've got the same. I've got the S8 PoE, this one here. Pretty good. And then I've also got the, I think it's a U6 Pro, is it? Is that the name they're giving it? Oh,
no,
AP6
you're getting your
Pro.
Ubiquiti and Alta.
Yeah, AP6 Pro. And then AP6. Also, they sent me out the Route 10, or Route 10.
No, it's Route.
And this one's cool because it's very similar to the new UXG Fiber. It's got 4 RJ45 ports and 2 SFP 10 gig ports, which is really cool. The weird thing I had with this one was I think it must have came with a really early firmware version because it was an absolute pain to adopt. It didn't quite work with Bluetooth. Sorry, it didn't. The GUI didn't work. Sorry, and I had to adopt it via my phone. I just remember it took a little while to get going with it. Which was
that was the Route 10.
Pain. Yeah, it was the AP and the AP and the switch both adopted with my phone really easily. But I can't quite remember why. But the Route 10 or the Route 10 was a little bit of a pain point. But they've, as we'll get to in a minute, there's loads and loads of software updates they've done since we had them, which is really good.
Yeah, and I was going to say before we get to that, just finishing off the hardware, the one thing we didn't cover is they have kind of a cloud key like device. So they have a local controller. By default, the normal option is they have a free cloud service that when you connect your equipment, it'll connect to their cloud service, and that's where you manage it.
Yep.
They also do have software you can download. I think there's a one-time $50 fee, I believe, to download and use that software. It's not free the way the UniFi Network application is.
Yep.
But you can also just buy a little appliance if you want local management. And yeah, I mean, you said, besides that, the Route 10, because you probably got like an early production model with old firmware.
I think so.
Was there any other issues you ran into, or how was your experience getting everything set up?
It was fine. Yeah, it was all good. The app works really well on my phone. So as I said, the switch and the AP got adopted really quickly. And just judging from the web GUI, it all seems pretty slick. There are a few little niggles which we'll get to in a minute, but yeah, I think overall it is really, really impressive what they've done in such a short amount of time. So
yeah, same. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a small team, like Alex mentioned. It's a lot of Ubiquiti people, and I don't remember exactly when they started, but I mean, this company's only been around. It's a division of another company, and I think they started maybe in 2021 or two, so they've only been around for a few years. And the Route 10, like that just came out late last year, so that's a pretty new product.
Yeah, that's very new. I can't figure out when they opened, but yeah. Yeah, it's impressive. There are some. I've seen some larger switches from them, like very dark grey switches, which you mentioned a minute ago. They got some more traditional rack mount
so they have a
switches.
16 and a 24 port rack mount. They've announced that this summer, I think June, July time, they're going to have a 48 port.
Oh, cool.
But that's not out yet. And they also mentioned that they have a wall AP. I think that's actually coming this spring, or by May. And same thing with Wi-Fi 7. Wi-Fi 7 access points will be later this year.
Yeah.
So not a ton of hardware to pick from, but
No.
I think the more interesting part about them is their approach and the software. It's very similar to UniFi in that it's kind of the similar idea. There's no ongoing license or subscription fee. It's pretty nice, clean, white. I mean, it definitely has like UniFi's DNA in these. Like it looks like it was designed by people that used to work for Ubiquiti. But it is pretty impressive. I mean, the Route 10 kind of launched with like a basic feature set, and they promised a bunch of things, and they've already delivered on some of those. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of software updates where they just added IDS IPS. They added WireGuard client VPN support, multi-WAN, improved failover and load balancing, WireGuard site-to-site. So they've been really pushing out a lot of software updates. It's been pretty exciting to follow along with that. But it still is a little bit immature. I mean, there are some basic features that you'd expect or things that have been in UniFi for years that they don't offer yet.
Yep. You said there's been 7 updates to the route. 7 updates to their router so far in 2025.
Yeah, it seems like they're pushing them out like once every week or two.
Yeah.
They're really pushing
Do you
fast
think,
on that.
I don't know how long they could keep the Alta.inc cloud hosted option on there for free. I don't know how long they could sustain that for in terms of...
Well, that's I mean, broadening a little bit into the world of quote-unquote UniFi competitors, which is a very common question. That's most similar to Aruba Instant On. Aruba Instant On is made by HP, Aruba, and it's just managed switches and access points, and they offer free cloud controllers for that. They don't, as far as I know, unless they've introduced something recently, they don't have a local controller option. It's all free cloud supported hardware. So yeah, as far as the sustainability, I mean, that's on them to pay for it. Or, eventually, probably 7 years from now, they might say, hey, the AP6 can no longer connect to our cloud or something like that.
Yeah, that's a thought. Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, to me, the hardware seems good. I like their general approach. I really like following along. They have a pretty good YouTube channel, and they'll have like monthly chats where you can go have they have like a Q&A kind of monthly. So if you're curious about, some feature that's upcoming or missing, or you have an issue, they have a pretty good community forum.
They do.
They have the YouTube channel to check out. So I think it's really interesting to follow along with their journey towards. I guess they're trying to basically become a complete competitor to UniFi, and they're kind of working their way there. Do you have any nits to pick or any compliments for your experience?
I thought the hardware. the hardware industrial design is really good. So we were talking about Ubiquiti's early AC models a while back, a minute ago. Sorry, and they were all plastic and creaked a little bit, whereas the AP6 is really solid. There's a heatsink on the back with their logo on it, and it's really really solid and doesn't flex or anything. Even the Root 10 as well. It's all metal on the back. It's really good structure, and it's all got the wall mounting built in. Obviously, the cheaper little switch is all plastic, but even though it's plastic, it still feels structurally good. So it's all good quality hardware design. There's, in terms of little weird issues with, so like I think you mentioned in the notes as well that the web GUI, there's certain things you try and click on. I will, for people watching this, I will try and put some little clips in between. But if you listen to this, sorry. There's, for example, to try and get the device tab open on the desktop, you have to click on the tiny icon of the device to open it up, and then it's like a little window you can move around. That's kind of strange. And there's some little things like that. Some little usability items could be fixed, but generally it's simple in terms of some of its approach, but it's really good in other areas. One of the things I really like is the real-time network traffic. It's so quick to update what it's doing, which is really good. So
yeah, agreed. Like that's probably my big, like, I have a lot of positive things to say, and yes. I like the idea of supporting this company trying to challenge a established competitor.
Yeah.
So I'm fully in favor of what they're trying to do. I'm a big fan of a lot of the things that they've done so far. Like, they've delivered, the Route 10 and some of those features that they promised. So, like,
yep.
Obviously there's some reservations about accepting promises or buying, hoping that the software will improve later. And you just kind of have to understand the reality of, like, this is a newer company,
yes.
Pretty small team. They're not going to compete on every single feature and have a bunch of people working on the design of the web interface to make everything responsive and beautiful. Like, it's not to that level yet.
No.
They're really, I think, trying to do the basics well and kind of build their way up. And yeah, if I had to complain about anything, it's probably just like nitpick design stuff, which the worst examples of which affect how the web interface works. It seems like the web interface, depending on how wide your window is, some items get hidden. And in general, the web interface, especially on the desktop, it looks like it was designed for a phone, or they're like, they have all these little pop-up windows that look like little mini phone screens. So you have to scroll down or expand a drop-down menu. It's just like, I think they could use some design work to kind of make that look like a more, desktop class, powerful networking software environment. It looks like kind of like a blown up phone UI, and it makes configuring basic things or toggling back and forth or open up 3 windows to do one thing. Like, that's probably if I'm picking nits, that's where I would complain the most, probably.
Yeah, so I just downloaded the iPad app on my iPad here, and it's actually a bit more usable than the web version, so that sort of ties into what you're saying a little bit. So,
well, there you go. Yeah. Get an iPad and use it that way.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to see them do throughout 2025? If you had to sort of give them a wish list, Evan's wish list or something. So,
well, yeah, they as I was looking up at their latest releases and all that, I did kind of get answers to a few of them.
Okay.
One of them was, just more model choices. It'd be nice to have a larger than 24 port switch. It'd be nice to have, like a wall AP they have the one outdoor model. They only have 2 indoor AP models. So just more, maybe not 40 switch options, but a few more than 3 would be nice. And they did mention the wall AP is coming, I think, by May. Wi-Fi 7 access points are coming sometime this fall or maybe later this year, and the 48 port switch is coming this summer. So those are like the most immediate, hardware needs. So I think that they're kind of doing pretty well on the hardware. To me, I think the software is where I would have more. I would love to see more attention. I mean, just judging by the past few months on the Route 10 specifically and all those software updates, I think they're doing it. So I think it's just, if you're interested in this, maybe, check in on them in a few months and see what progress they've made. And really, hopefully, the software continues to get fleshed out and the design kind of gets worked on a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just checking in their community forum. There's, as of in the last 3 or 4 days, there's been an update to the Route 10, another update to the AP with some PMF filters. So there's stuff happening on their forums all the time. It seems like new software updates, new improvements, and they're listening to what people are saying, which is really good. The only thing I can think of that they should work on is adding some more router options. So kind of echoing what you said a little bit in terms of more hardware. Yeah. So more rack mount like the UXG Pro a little bit. Some more powerful rack mount devices. So, but apart from that, they're on a good trajectory, I think. And I know this podcast is called UI Chat, so Ubiquiti Chat. But we always like to sort of delve into other areas of networking because it's quite interesting to see what other people are up to in terms of hardware and software and things. So
yeah, I mean I would be hesitant to recommend Alta for like an MSP that's installing these at a ton of sites. Maybe it's worth like a trial. Get one of the access points, get a switch, and just see if it works for your setup. But you might run into features that aren't there that you need, those kind of things. So if you go into it with that mindset of this is a young, promising company that's kind of building their way up to be kind of a UniFi competitor, I think a lot of people might, see value in it.
Yeah, if you've got like a simple deployment, maybe chuck one of these in and see how it works. Because the last thing you want to do is have the customer ask, "Does this do this?" And you go, "Actually, not yet." It's like, oh, okay. So
come back in 3 months when the software is updated.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. So yeah, alta.inc is their website. They don't think they sell directly to consumer, but in the UK, for at least, they sell through distributors and stuff. So, interesting to look at what other people are up to. So,
yeah. And you ready for a speed run through the UniFi software?
Let's go.
I'm trying to think of is there any releases that you want to pull out and point out? I know we have a few in the show notes, but a lot of them were kind of minor updates.
There was more hardware than software this month. I mean, we got Network 9.1.112 EA, and it just added shadow mode for the UXG Enterprise.
There's been a bunch of 9.1 UniFi Network releases. The big headline features I saw were like logging improvements. It's stuff that we had talked about before, and I think UniFi OS 4.2 is in EA, and that's BGP support, certificates for guest hotspot portals, advanced MDNS options, SIEM, logging server integration. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of bug fixes and kind of stuff that we had talked about before.
There was also 9.1.105 for UniFi Network, and that said it added an API to authorize guests, but that you said that was pulled for whatever reason.
Yeah, that specific release called that out, and then 9.1.105 for UniFi Network that EA did get locked. I didn't scroll through the entire thread to see if they gave a reason.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't see that in 9.1.112.
Interesting.
So I'm assuming there's more to drop there. And it probably ties into the feature where they have that certificate securing that hotspot portal. Mm. But the fact that it's adding API support for guests probably will tie into like a third party that manages maybe like collection of email addresses for your guests, or allows them to use their room number to log in, or those kind of networks where you want a guest to be authorized against some other outside identity source.
It's about time, because that side of UniFi has been a little bit abandoned and it's not worked on really. There was an update to the AI key. It can now process old events, so if you just bought an AI key, adopted it, it can then go and back catalog all the old events you've got in the system and add its AI-ness to those. And then Protect.
UniFi Protect hallway mode made me laugh.
Yeah. There was no explanation about what it meant at all, and someone in the comments just said, "Oh yeah, it just means the camera turns 90 degrees." It's like
hallway mode.
So why's that got to have a specific mode? I mean, I haven't tested it, so I don't know if that's the extent of what this can do. But like,
Yeah, I guess the idea is that if it's a 16:9 widescreen, it'll become vertical. So if you're looking down a hallway, you'll have a better view of that. But also, why couldn't you have just rotated the camera when you installed it? I don't know.
Oh well. Yeah, there was not mentioned, but there was a minor update to the Wave MLO5 1.6.0. Just added some air view modes and statistics and performance improvements to that AAP. There were some comments on so we upload a couple short videos of the podcast to go out on the YouTube channel. And quite a few people commented on the Wave clip I made and said, "Oh, there's no reviews of this device yet. What's going on?" So no one apparently on YouTube has reviewed the Wave MLO5 yet. So,
well, yeah, and right now we covered it I think last time, but right now it's only the AP, so you can make it like a point-to-point link with two of them, but there's no CPE or
Correct.
Customer premises radios to connect to that.
That's right.
So in general, I think they're kind of niche products. They're new, and we're still waiting for the rest of the lineup. But yeah, it is kind of a bummer that no one's really paying much attention or reviewing those because they're interesting.
Yeah, something I should probably do.
Yeah, get on it, man. What are you doing?
And then I put some other bits and pieces in here. So Building Bridge, so the 60 gigahertz devices, they can now have selectable 5 gigahertz DFS channels, which has been an omission for absolutely ages. So you can now go ahead and choose those if you want to. UISP router and console 532 RC2. The UISP application can now be stopped, restarted, or started from the GUI, which again another weird omission. Why that wasn't a thing before, I don't know. And then UAP 8023 for the E7 and U7 devices has further improvements to IoT stability, and you've mentioned that this 8019 is unified all U7 models onto the same firmware release. So, whoa. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for the longest time we were seeing releases like this is only for the U7 Pro Max or only for the U7 Pro, and it was with that mess of the 2.4 gigahertz IoT stability that was ongoing for months.
Yep.
Finally, all of those firmwares. It seems like we're healing. Like we're getting back to there is one firmware release for all models, and hopefully those issues are mostly solved.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. A long episode, lots of stuff. Before we disappear and come back next time, what have we been working on since last time we recorded something?
Oh, I swear, every time I go to update my comparison charts, Ubiquiti releases more hardware.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I don't know if they should stop or I should stop trying. But I do have, at least for the UniFi Protect and UniFi Network, working on those. I will say, just bringing that up, Ubiquiti has made a lot of improvements to their, I think specifically on the store page.
Yes.
They have the really, really great way to compare products now. You can go to the product and hit compare, and it shows relevant other models, and they have that like add for products that you're interested in.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
I love it. I could not praise that enough. And I feel like this maybe signals that my watch has ended as far as comparison charts, because it feels my goal with those always was to get this kind of information out there.
Yep.
And it's always better when the vendor does it. So I'm not going to toot my own horn and say I had anything to do with that. I love the changes that Ubiquiti has made, and it makes me feel like I'm wasting my time with those comparison charts now, at least for Ubiquiti products.
Well, have you noticed when you there's a toggle? So if I'm just looking at the UNVR devices, right? So there's a tick box to say only compare the unique specs. You're not going to have comparisons of all the stuff, and you can even drag and drop the things together, so you can customize the table, which is really cool. So yes. Someone's done a really good job there. So
whoever at Ubiquiti or whatever team did that, like, amen. Thank you. That is wonderful. It does kind of make dealing with 40 different switch models a little bit easier. But in general, I just think it's a really, really nice thing, and they've done a lot of good stuff with presenting their tech specs better, making it easier to compare those things. So you don't have to go to my website for that.
Okay. Stuff I'm working on. So I've got a UniFi SuperLink device, which is really weird. Like this sort of thing bothers me. So on the website, it's SuperLink with no space in between, and on the box, it's got a space in between the two words. It's like last minute change.
We need to know which one is the true SuperLink.
I'm not happy with that. So I'll be testing that at some point in the next few weeks. I'm making a review video, and yeah, lots of car reviews. There's about one a week now on my YouTube channel at a minimum, so go and check those out. And yeah, there's all sorts of stuff happening on this podcast and the other ones I do. So yeah, make sure to come back next time for our interview with Adam. Again, I can't remember his last name. It's really bad of me. But some WISP related conversations. That'll be all good fun, I think. So yeah. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube. Let us know if you got any feedback or anything. Let us know in the comments on YouTube as well. And you can email us if you have got anything feedback related for us as well. Where can people find you online if they want to find out more about you and what you do?
evmccann.net.
You can find the interface at theinterface.uk. Lots of news related bits and pieces on there, and various car related content on my other channels as well. Thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you again next time.
See ya.